Welcome to the Albany High School Library's summer reading list for 11th graders. This is Mrs. Mikett, one of the high school librarians, and I'm here to share with you some of the book titles that you might be interested for this reading assignment. And also we've posted all documents and information about the titles on our Weebly, which is Albany High School Summer Reading.weebly.com. You can also find us on Twitter at ALBHSLIB. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first couple of titles. The first title is Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. This novel is autobiographical in nature. The author's family experienced this horrific hardship. This takes place in the 1940s during World War II, during the Holocaust, and it's an unknown story that happened to other Jews in Europe at the time. In 1941, 15-year-old Lena, her mother and her brother are ripped from their Lithuanian home by Soviet guards, and they are sent to Siberia to work camps. Their father is sentenced to death in a prison camp while Lena and her mother and her brother fight for their lives. They end up in these work camps for years and years, trying to return to Lithuania. Find out if her family makes it out alive. It's based on a true story. Ruta Sepetys' Between Shades of Grey. The next title is How to Save a Life by Sarah Zarr, and this novel of fiction features two main characters, Jill and Mandy. Jill is 17 years old and has recently lost her father tragically, and she's grieving. Mandy is her friend, who's nearly 19, finds out that she's unexpectedly pregnant, and Sarah's mother decides that it's a really good idea to adopt Mandy's baby. Everything does not turn out the way that they thought it would. Find out what happens to Jill and Mandy in How to Save a Life. The next title is Laurie Halse Anderson's Chains. As you can see from the front cover, it's won a couple of awards. It's won the Scott Odell Award for Historical Fiction. It was a National Book Award finalist. This is historical fiction. It takes place during the Revolutionary War in New York City. It features two young African-American slave sisters, Isabel and Ruth. Isabel and her sister are sold from one master to another. Her original owner had promised her freedom upon his death, and that promise was not honored. Isabel and her sister were sent to live with a horrible, malicious family, the Locktons, who potentially turn out to be spies for the British. Isabel decides to take the matter into her own hands and figure out how she can break those chains. Will she give up the Locktons? Find out in Chains by Laurie Halse Anderson. The next title is Nick Sheff's Tweak. This is a true story. This is a real memoir by author Nick Sheff. Nick Sheff got drunk for the first time at the age of 11. In the years that followed, he regularly smoked pot, he did cocaine and ecstasy, and he even developed addictions to crystal meth and heroin. He felt like he had it under control. He felt like he could always quit and put his life back together when he needed to. He felt like his drug use was just a choice, that he could handle it. After a violent relapse one summer, he is convinced otherwise, and he spares no detail in the horrific, heartbreaking true story of his relapse and road to recovery. It features a lot of information about the physical and mental depths of drug addiction and what it did to his body, and really focuses on some of the dysfunction within himself and his family. It's a harrowing memoir. Nick Sheff's Tweak. Do you know someone that you love that uses drugs? Take a look at Nick Sheff's Tweak. Our next title is I'm Not Her by Janet Gertler. This is a contemporary fiction novel, present day. It's really about sibling rivalry. Christina and Tess are two sisters. Tess is the exact opposite of her beautiful athletic sister, but that's okay. Christina is the sporty one. Tess is the smart one. They each have their place until Christina is diagnosed with cancer. Suddenly, Tess is in the center of the popular crowd. Everyone's eager for updates. There's senior boys flirting with her. But the smiles of her picture perfect family are cracking, and her sister could be dying. Now Tess has to fill a new role, the strong one. Because if she doesn't hold it together, who will? I'm Not Her by Janet Gertler. Next up is Marcus Zusak's I Am the Messenger. This is a Prince honor title. Um, Marcus Zusak also wrote The Book Thief, which is an available option for you as well on this reading list. This novel is kind of a mystery. It's kind of dark. It's kind of hopeful. There's a 19-year-old cab driver named Ed Kennedy who's really not much of a future. He's kind of a loser. He's kind of a dork. He plays cards, drinks with his friends, drives his cab, and just really is doesn't really have a lot going for him. Then one day he is in the right place at the right time and manages to stop an armed robbery at a bank. He ends up getting clues sent to him in the mail in the form of playing cards, and here the mystery unfolds. Who is it that's sending these cards to him? He now ends up, saving the day with each one of these playing card messages. So, really, one question remains: who's behind Ed's mission? Who's sending the cards? You'll like this mystery. I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak. The next title is Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. You may have noticed that it's also a major motion picture. Have you ever wanted to run away and join the circus? Jacob Jankowski is the main character. He's now in his 90s, and when he was a young man, he was a veterinary student, and he just by chance was able to work with the circus, the Benzini brothers, to manage the animals. He meets a beautiful equestrian star named Marlena, who's married to a very bizarre animal trainer. And there's also an incredible cast of animals in the circus, one being the lovable Rosie, who's an elephant that causes all sorts of chaos and entertainment. It's an interesting look at circus life in the 1930s. The main character describes it as the best thing that ever happened to him and a living hell. So find out what happens to Jacob, and does he get together with Marlena? What happens to Rosie the elephant? All in Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. Next up is The Walled City by Ryan Grodin. This title is dark, mature, and criminal. The main character is a young guy named Day who is trying to get out of this walled city. This walled city is formerly a fort, but now it's an absolute lawless area of criminals, prostitutes, and thugs. And every day inside the walled city is a day of survival for everyone that's in there. Day is trying to get out. He's enlisted the help of a prostitute from one of the brothels in the walled city and another friend of theirs. They're trying to make their escape. But each of them has their own secrets in terms of why they're in there and why they need to leave. So find out if the three of them escaped. The Walled City by Ryan Grodin. The next title is Jude by Kate Morganroth. You can see from the cover a pair of handcuffs and a teenager here. Who can you trust? Look around you. Who do you trust? Your family, your friends. 15-year-old Jude is still reeling from his drug-dealing father's murder. He ends up moving in with his wealthy mother that he never knew and transferring to a preppy private school. He then gets tricked into pleading guilty to a crime that he did not commit. What did he do to deserve that? Who did he trust that he wasn't supposed to? Find out what happens to Jude by Kate Morganroth. We're going to press pause on this screencast and pick up with another one in just a moment. Stay tuned.